You can have a seat. Thank you for praying for me, Betty. I appreciate that. Okay, today I wanted to talk about the God in your spouse.
Amen.
As most of us may have a spouse and some of us don't, you have to understand that we have to trust the God in this person. You have to be able to trust him or her.
All right.
Okay. So if your spouse tells you to move to Wyoming and God told him to,
Okay.
you're moving to Wyoming.
All right.
Okay? And you have to start lining up. So as your man or your woman of God is telling you this, it will start manifesting through you.
Amen.
Okay? What that means when it starts manifesting through you, you might start seeing visions of your family there. You cannot be afraid of what God is leading you guys to. Because I feel there's a movement here.
Yes. Amen.
There's movement going on.
Yes, it is.
And we have to
Yes,
be
it is.
prepared. You have to be prepared through the word. You got to be prepared for fights, because there are going to be fights that we've never seen before. I know I'm personally going through those fights right now. I can say my husband is doing the same. It's going to happen. You have got to be prepared. And today, I am going to start preparing you.
Okay.
All right?
Go ahead.
All right, we're going to go to Titus 2. In verse 1. Let me tell you a little something while you're looking. I grew up, how many of you guys grew up in a two-parent home? Raise your hand if you did. How many of you grew up in a one-parent home? Okay. We need a reference when it comes to being married women and men. We don't have a reference for all you guys that raised your hand. There is no reference for you that you have in a mother and father who is supposed to raise you up and teach your instruction. So when you don't have that, what you have is God. Okay? You have to understand that you are not alone.
Right.
There is the Word of God. As I started here, when I was sitting back there with my husband, I was just bawling and crying because I felt so abandoned. How do you come into a house like this where it seems some people are growing, and I grew up with such abandonment? I didn't have a father there. I might have had a father there in person, but he wasn't there for me and the woman that I wanted to be. He wasn't able to teach me that. I can count on one hand how many times my dad has said, "I love you and you're beautiful." I mean, I can't. I honestly can't tell you. I never grew up with that. I grew up with my dad. My mom and dad divorced when I was 8. And at that time, I felt like I had to raise my boys, my brothers. I call them my boys. Because I did not want them to understand the hurt and the pain that comes along with not having two parents there. I fully understand it being 8. They didn't. So immediately I had to grow up. Immediately. And when I had to take over that, I felt like nothing else really mattered but my brothers. And then one point in life at the age of 13, I said, it's over. I am done. I am done with life. I am a child. I shouldn't have to be raising my brothers. My mom was there, but she was very, very bitter. She was very mean. I remember being called, "You're a slut. You're no good." And my brothers got the best of treatment. But I was the one that had to suffer because of I don't even know, because of a decision adults made. I had to suffer for it. So what I'm doing there at the age of 13 is I'm thinking, I am consumed with grief. I'm consumed with the bitterness that I live in. I'm consumed with a life that I'm not prepared for. At the age of 13, I decided, well, this is the end. I'm going to end my life. This is done. Okay? I was preparing myself to make sure my brothers wouldn't find me. I wanted to write out a letter to my mom to explain to her that I try to give you warnings. I've tried to tell you exactly how I feel. Nobody wanted to listen. Everybody wanted to sweep the feelings underneath the rug. Everybody. I mean, I would go over to people's house, play with it. I mean, I was trying to tell the parents without actually telling the parents that I needed somebody to hold on to. And the God that my mom and my grandma and my family, I'm like, well, what? You talk about it, but I don't see you live in it. You're talking about this is a God that loves us, but then you're portraying to me that you don't love me. There was inconsistencies. So as the night was, as I was preparing to get my stuff together, I was determined I was going to hang myself in the closet. I had already come up with it. I heard an ambulance, just like right 2 doors down, and it startled all of us, so we go outside and see what's going on. What happened is that the family 2 doors down from us had exactly 3 children, just like I had. I'm the oldest of 3 children with 2 younger brothers. It was the opposite. It was an older brother and 2 younger sisters. What we heard was screams. I mean, screams that I've never heard before coming out of that house. What happened is the sisters found the brother had hung himself in the closet, 2 doors down. And in that moment, I cried and I cried and I cried. I didn't understand the impact, but at that time, it was just an eye-opener for me. I knew that I was meant to be in this world, and you guys are meant to be in this world. Your testimony is not something you just sweep underneath the rug. It's for you to speak and tell. Because as I'm sitting back there with my husband one time in church, God started revealing to me in visions how he was there in each and every moment that stood out to me. He is there for you. You have to seek him. And when you seek him, you have to understand that it's not always coming how you think it's going to come. But you have to be open to how God is speaking to you. And that's when you have to really seek him and open up your heart for that. All right? And it's the same way when you have to open up your heart for your spouse. Okay? It's the same thing. I tell you that because I want you to know that your life means everything to somebody. And it means everything to God to have you sitting here, understanding what you bring to the world. Not Omaha, the world. Okay? All right. Sorry, I kind of got off on that. But, you know, if I could have somebody encourage me when I was some of your ages as I look around, man, you know, I'd be so grateful for being in this sanctuary, being in this house where we have women that encourage us, that strengthen us, that want to see the best in us at all points in time in our life. I mean, amazing, amazing. Mistakes made, past, whatever the case, it's done. We live a life here, guys, where we can open up, we can be honest with each other, we can see growth, we can see correction. I mean, and be loved with it too. Whew, man, I didn't grow up with that. Correction came with, you know, you're dumb and go sit down. There was no, there was no love in that. Here you get the love, you get the correction. You got to take that and you got to move forward. Move forward, not back. Don't be afraid, but you have to move forward. That's what we're here for. So you got to open your mouth. So you got to ask for help. You got to seek God. You ask for help. And we have women, men here that will pray for you. So if you need that, you need to seek it. You need to ask for it. All right. Sorry. Yes, I said Titus 2, verse 1, please. Yes, verse 1.
But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience.
Okay. Right now, I want to have the young men be like old men. What that means is that I want you to have a maturity that these young men don't see. This verse right here, where you are to be dignified, sound in faith. We have to have men that are going to step out on faith. Step out. Society is telling us that we have to do this, we have to do that, you have to do this. That is not law. This word is law. This word is telling you what you need to do to be a wise man in a young body. Take the word for what it is. Okay? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things.
All right, women. Here it is. It's laid out for you. This is what you need to be a wise woman, to be an older woman in a young body. I don't know if I've seen women that have been 60 years old that look 40, that have been 30 years old and looking 60. Life gets a hold of you, okay? It will cling on to you, and it will make sure that your appearance shows your worry, shows your fear. Okay? You need to be able to be renewed daily through your mind. It's telling you right here, these are the characteristics of a wise woman. This is what you need to go into a relationship with. Because as we all know, we're supposed to submit to our husbands. Women, okay? When you submit to your, it's not taking away your dignity, your integrity. You're actually building it when you submit to your husbands. Okay? You are building your integrity as a woman, as a wise woman. And as we go on, we'll see that younger women are able to learn from you and therefore become great women just by observation. Just by observation. Go ahead.
That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children.
Oh, I have to stop there. What comes first? Love their husbands comes first. And then love your children. You would not have your children without your husband. Okay? You have to remember that he comes first. All right? When he walks in the door, when him and the children walk in the door, I know the children come up and love you, and that's great. But you have to make sure you address your husband. You have to make sure you address your husband in almost everything that is being done. You would address him through respect, asking his opinion. I value my husband's opinion in almost everything, from homes, and it's a mutual thing. You know, I want him to know that I respect his opinion, but not only that, it brings us both joy knowing that we can make decisions together. It makes us happy. And therefore, what happens? It makes our children happy because all they desire is to see mom and dad together and happy. We don't talk about boyfriend, girlfriend. They talk about marriage now. You know, they talk about, well, I want to get married, Mom. You know, that's what we have to continue to portray is a happy home. And when there's a happy home, there's a mutual respect. And women, when it comes to your men, you have to honor them. You have to make sure that they are, well, of course, God first, but they are included. And that's why you have to make sure that the God in your husband is also being addressed. Because you have to trust in him. You have to trust the God in him. So many of us get so consumed with the God in us. We always want, yes, God, talk to me, speak to me, speak to me. But what happens when he's speaking to your husband? But then you're not lining up with him. You don't have your arms wrapped around him, keeping him strong, keeping his hands up to fight. You've got to make sure that you have your husband's back, that you're addressing that spirit and not addressing him. Man, with kids too, it makes it difficult. It really makes it difficult because sometimes you want to say that it's him. You want to say that it's because of you're not doing this. No. Whenever situations like that arise, what you do is you go to God first, you address the spirit, and God will tell you what to do from there. Amen. That's how it works. When it comes to situations that are difficult in compromise, that's what you do. I'll repeat it again. All right? You go to God, you pray about it, and he will direct your path. That's how you address situations in a marriage. I didn't say boyfriend and girlfriend, I said in a marriage. Okay? Because if you conduct the data collection like you're married, you would get weary while you're in your marriage. Because you put forth all of you. If you put forth all of you in the data collection, what do you have in the marriage? What do you have in the marriage? You get weary because what happens? Things start coming up. That first year of marriage is no joke. I mean, we were having fights about where the soap's going to go. I mean, the curtain, the shower curtain, which way the shower curtain was going to go. I mean, the rug in the kitchen. I am serious. Things start coming up because you are two independent people coming together. You lived in two separate homes, okay? My mom cooked like this. His mom cooked like this. And then you get in the kitchen together, try to cook together. Food's on the wall. I mean, I am serious. You have to understand that comes in marriage. You have to give that in marriage. Data collection, you be honest and upfront. But you give all that effort in marriage because you will get weary in marriage. You will get married because if that data collection lasts too long, you're just like, man, what else can I tell you? I mean, really, you seen my mom. You seen my family. Too many times. You know, I've been around his family. I remember walking in. I remember walking into his family reunion, and I was like, when did you get this many people in your family? And you didn't tell me they were that crazy. You know, it was an eye-opener because when you marry somebody, you ultimately marry the family because they're going to be there. They will be there, okay? They will be there. And when you have children, they'll be there even more, okay? And that is actually one thing I need to address too. Living with the parents, okay. This is something that you really have to pray on, all right? You really should be able to pray on this subject. Because when you go into the family's home, for instance, my husband and I decided to live with his mother, or my mother-in-law, and what happened is he reverted right back into that son. He was no longer my husband. And it was very difficult for me because being married for 3 years and then having a child on the way, it was like, I need you available for me. I need you to understand that I'm going through a lot of stuff right now because we didn't have any jobs. There were no money coming in, money going out. Diapers were going to be, child's on the way. I mean, that's some scary stuff. And if my husband can't be there for me emotionally, physically, and spiritually, then you start, again, going back to that abandonment. So I go back into childhood, and I bring up those walls because I don't want to be hurt. I want you to be there for me in everything. And I need his God and him to be there for me because sometimes his spirit, his laughter makes me feel better. That's what I need sometimes. It's just him holding me for a moment. It's not even speaking. It's just, I want you to hold me. I didn't have a dad that ever held me. Do you have anybody that you can say just held you when you weren't a baby? You could just rest your head on and cry and talk to openly. When you have that, you want that whenever those hardships come up. And I didn't feel like I had that when we were living with his mother. And so, it came down to it. Well, we got to get out of here. I don't care how much it cost. We need to get out of here because it is for real. I mean, you revert back in the child because that's what you were. You leave a mother and father, okay? So you leave that childhood and you go into adulthood. You mature. So it's very hard to step back into that role but still have the maturity because you still got to respect that woman of the house and that man of the house. So it becomes very difficult. So pray about that if you guys ever need to go in that situation. But you seriously got to think about that. We make decisions without thinking about the consequences. When it goes into decision making with a spouse, you got to talk about the consequences, not just only the benefits that comes with it. Okay? Because so many of us choose to neglect that aspect of decision making when it comes to a spouse, when it comes to decision making with a spouse. You got to take that in consideration. So when it comes to your husbands, again, like I said, husbands comes first, and then the children are addressed. Make sure we're always including our husbands in whatever we're doing. Okay? You could keep on. I think it's verse 5.
To be discreet, chaste, keepers of home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, in all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he is a contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you.
Okay, sound speech. That means we're thinking before we're speaking. Okay? Some of us are loose in the mouth. Okay? Amen. You really got to think before you speak. What always comes to my mind when I say that is love your neighbor as yourself. Because would you want, the way that you address some people, would you want somebody to talk to you like that? Would you? I mean, you've really got to take that in consideration when you're speaking, when you're discussing with a spouse, with a friend, with a church member. I mean, like I said before, we have to criticize in love. And I believe that we, each other here, can be able to display that love nature when we're criticizing. You can use it on the members here. You know what I'm saying? You can work on it right now in order to be prepared to be a wife, to be a husband. You have to be willing to do so. Because the change that you want to see has to start with you. And the instruction does come from God. But you have to be willing to do it. We all have a choice. You have a choice to do right or wrong. You have a choice. And I believe that whenever you speak to your spouse, I think God is really trying to talk to you. If he's not saying anything, maybe you shouldn't say anything. That's how it works. If you know you're going to say something, don't say anything at all. Even if a spouse comes at you wrong, don't say anything. You leave it alone. Leave it to God. Because you pray about it, and the next morning, he might wake up and say, you know what, I'm sorry. I said that. Or before you go to bed, because you should always address stuff before you go to bed. Always. You should not go to bed angry at each other. Never. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Because think about it. You let something yesterday affect your today. You are allowing that to happen to your husband. So what you're doing is you're putting his hands down and you're stepping back and you're allowing the Spirit to come in. You're allowing that to happen. You don't want that to I hope you guys don't want that to happen with your relationship. You're not trying to knock out your husband by letting the Spirit in. Say, yeah, you deserve that. No. No. That's not the way it should be conducted. You are always fighting for your spouse no matter what the circumstance is, whether he's hurt, whether he upsets you, whatever the case may be, you're always fighting for your marriage, no matter what. Whatever status that may be in, you're always fighting for your marriage. And that comes down to the demonic presence. That comes down to the girls that are trying to come after your husband, because they will come. And for the women trying to come after your husbands and the men trying to come after your wives, it will happen. You have to be prepared, because like I said, that spirit will come in and it will start rolling, getting the ball rolling. And next thing you know, your mind's going. And next thing you know, okay, where's these texts coming from? What's going on here? I mean, you don't let that happen. Don't let it happen. Stop it now. Stop it now. And it comes, you got to have that attitude. You're not going to let anything come between you and your husband. You're not going to let anything, nothing. You're not going to allow it to happen. You're not going to allow it to happen. So, all right. I would like to go to Psalm 27, 1 through 2. Yep, Psalms 27, verse 1.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Come on.
Man, we should have some praise after that. How awesome is that verse? This is a verse I read every day. Every day. Did you know a demonic spirit tries to come after you every day? Every day? Every day? I mean, before you even wake up, it's coming after you. You have to be prepared. You have to understand. Do you guys not understand the power that's in you? Do you not understand that somebody wants to come after you? That Satan wants to come after you. They want you to be in the state that you're in with your mind fights. They want that. They want you to stay there. And we become so stagnant in our thinking and our process that you have to always continue to fight. Yes, you have to fight, but you don't always have to be in that state of fighting. You don't always have to be there. But you have to understand that, and in order to fight it, you have to start at the very beginning. So when I wake up, typically before my husband, and I always say a prayer for him, for us. For us. And it means a lot to me when I pray over him, and I get in the shower and I come out, he's like, man, I don't know what you prayed, but man, I feels different today. I'm like, oh yeah, there you go, God. You work it. Work it. That means a lot to me, but I feel, man, in the day, I'm not texting my husband constantly, like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? How's it going? Because, I mean, if you don't know Walmart is a beast in itself. And they make their people work. And he said that's where God wants him to be. That's where God wants him to be. But I want him to know that I'm going to be there and to encourage him. He's not in that fight by himself. He is not in that fight by himself. If God told him that's where he's going to be, then that's where he's going to be. That's why the God in him, and that's why you have to make sure that the spouse has a relationship with God. Because if that spouse doesn't have a relationship with God, what are you fighting? You could be fighting, I don't know, his wants, his needs. Again, you might be fighting something that doesn't even have to do with what's going on. So you're wasting this wasted energy. That's wasted energy. Okay? And then you become defeated. And then you start thinking to yourself, man, well, what's been going on this whole time? If it's so oblivious to you and to him. Okay? So you have to be able to fight whatever's going on for you and for your spouse. Because what? You're one. You can become one. So if he's fighting something, I'm fighting something. If I'm fighting something, he's fighting something. And we're always texting each other. I'm like, hey, you know what? Today is starting off to be a pretty bad day here at work. I'm going to need your prayer, okay? And that makes me feel real assured because I know that he has a relationship. So I know that he's not just fighting. He's not just saying words. He's actually fighting something. This is somebody that has my back. And that's why it's important that you need a relationship. Because if he grows weary, who does he have? Me. And I want to be able to just sit there and say, no. You're going to get, rebuilt, renewed in your mind, and we're going forward. We're not, if he makes stop, I'm with him. If he falls, I'm there with him. I'm pushing him back up. I'm going to continue to guide him. And God is going to be that light for us. That's what it is. But he needs to know that I always am here for him. If he's disciplining the children, I'm right there disciplining the children too. There's no question mark. Oh, well, Dad is just having a bad day. No. It's like, well, that's what Dad said. That's what Dad said. And if there's an issue with it, then it's addressed when the kids are not there, not in front of the kids. Because if it's addressed in front of the kids are going to be like, oh, yeah, well, this is how I can scheme Mom and Dad. Man, and kids are good at that. They are very smart. They are good at that. But you have to be, again, it just comes back to that bond. You guys have got to be able to communicate and talk with each other and trust each other and know that the God in your spouse is there to protect and guide you. Okay? So that's why Psalm 27:1 is just, can you read it one more time? And I want to hear some praise after this, okay? Because there's no need. We have strength. We are not afraid.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?
Yes. Amen. We have the victory. We have it. We have already displayed it. We serve a mighty God now. We serve a mighty God. We are overcoming these battles. Okay? We are overcoming loneliness. We are overcoming it, and we thank God right now in advance for what he is delivering us from. These first couple of days of January have been, I don't know about you guys, but we are being attacked because there's a huge blessing. Okay? And you have to know that the word, man, we already have that victory. I just cannot we already have the victory. We have already defeated it. It's just a matter of you just lining up and making sure you believe God and his word. That's all it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. All right, let's go to Psalm 61, please. Verse 2.
From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I.
Man, he is leading you to a rock higher than you. Finances and marriage is a huge thing. It is tough. You make more money, more bills come in. I'd be like, thank God, but we need more money. But he knows what we're in need of. He absolutely knows what we're in need of. And he is leading us there. But you have to trust him. Trust God. And it comes out trusting the God in your spouse. If I tell my husband, this is my last time working a part-time job, he better believe that this is my last time with a part-time job. If my husband doubts that, how does that make you feel? Not only is he doubting you, but he's doubting what God has told you. That's an insult. That hurts. That's not lining up with what God, because we're one. Are we not one? So you're telling me that if God is telling me that I don't have to work this part-time job and you don't believe it, then there's a disconnect happening. Something's going on that needs to be addressed. And that's where self-reflection comes into. You have to reflect on that. If a spouse says something to you and you're like, again, if your spouse says, hey, we're moving to Wyoming, God told me to, and you're like, whoa, all right then that means there needs some self-reflection. What's going on with you? Because you should have already known something was going on. That is real. That is real. When my husband comes to me with some stuff, I've already prayed. I've already known some stuff. It's not revealed everything, but I know something's going on. I'm not totally caught off guard. You should not be totally caught off guard when your spouse comes to you. You should not be caught off guard. You should not be. You should know something's going on. Something. You have a connection with him or her, and you have to make sure that it's always there. You're always connecting. So he will lead you to a rock that is higher than I. That's amazing. Thank you, Lord. Yes. Hebrews 13:4. Am I teaching you something today, people? All right. Okay. I know. I'm like, woo. Okay. I'm making sure I'm teaching you something today because God has something to say to you. I know some of you have prayed not to be single anymore. Are you praying for that spouse that's sitting next to you? You have to be on your P's and Q's. Okay? Because he didn't just give you somebody just to give somebody to you. He gave you somebody because you're equipped to have somebody. You're equipped to have somebody sit beside you. So you got to make sure that you're taking this marriage is honorable. Yes, it is honorable. Okay. Sorry. Hebrews 13 and 4.
Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge.
The bed is undefiled. My husband loves this verse. He tells me this verse all the time. It is the Bible. And there is nothing I can say to that because that is true. God said his word is true. He be using that everywhere. I'm like, but shoot, can we just wait until we get home? I mean, man, I know. I just like, yeah, the car, the house, the wash machine. I'm like, sheesh. Man, it's gotten so bad. My little one, my husband and all the boys were watching a movie, and, it kind of got a little heated. And I guess there was a woman in there making some noise. And my little one, Sean, says, "Is that Mommy?" He's like, "Mommy?" I was like, oh, my goodness, wow. So I was like, you can't complain now, babe. But, man, that is word that we take seriously in our home. We take that stuff seriously. Man, men, and that's I know. Men need sex. That's what it comes down to. Men have to have sex. You cannot neglect them in that. You cannot neglect them at all. Okay? That is like food to them. And, and the reason why, in all seriousness, because as women, we are emotional beings, okay? And the men feel very connected to make sure that they can emotionally attach to you like that. It is they feel very empowered and loved that you will accept that. In all seriousness, men need that. They need to know that they are loved. They need to know that you care for them and that they can pleasure you. Seriously, that's what it comes down. They really do. They enjoy that. That's in all seriousness. Am I not right, guys? Exactly. Yes, it is true. They have to know that they can do that for you. That no man, and you got to make sure they know that they can. Okay, and you got to talk. Keep on talking it up. Keep on doing it. You say it. You say whatever you need to say. Okay? You say whatever you need to say, ladies, okay? I'm not going to take it any further than that. Okay? All right. You make sure he knows explicitly. I'm telling you, Man, if you want some reactions out of them, you just let them know. That's what it comes to. I am serious. You will not. I'm telling you, if you want something, just lay it on him and ask, and there you go. You got it. I am telling you. That is the way it works. That is the way it works. You want anything. I mean, like even watching the kids by himself. I've used that a couple of times. That works. I'm like, hey, I can go get my nails done. I can leave the house. And then next thing you know, he's like, what did I agree to? I'm like, I'm already out the door, so. Hey, that's what it comes down to. And, we can laugh and enjoy, but men find treasure in that. They really do enjoy that. So you got to make sure that you also, how can I say that? Make sure that you nurture that. Nurture that. Don't use it as leverage. Absolutely don't use that as leverage, because then it becomes desensitized a little bit. You have to really make sure that you're nurturing that spirit when it comes to that, because it will come more as a chore, something that has to be scheduled. And having kids and having that, having jobs, maybe even having a part-time job, it's like, where do you find the time to do that? It does become very difficult. And you're like, well, if I come home at 11 o'clock, and then we do stuff, and, I got to get up at 4 o'clock, you start really rationing, like, do I really have to? But no, in all seriousness, that's what it comes down to sometimes. That's really does. You are engaged at work. So you got people pulling at work. You got your kids pulling at you. You got dinner to be made. You got another job to go to. And then you have to come home and you want to just sleep. And then, no, for him, it's just like, well, I had a rough day too. And that's how he releases his day. That's how he may feel better about his day. So are you going to neglect him? It's more than just the act. It is more than just the act. Okay? So you just can't neglect that. You got to at least think it through a little bit. On the car ride home, think about it. Say, okay, now when I come home, I know he's going to want to do stuff, so I got to get the mind frame. You got to really work, and I'm serious, you have to work yourself up sometimes. You really do, because you are so tired. You are so tired. All you can think about, if you're on the way home and my eyes are, halfway open, how am I supposed to, sit through 30 minutes of that? Really, how do you do that? How do you do that? I am serious. You get tired. You do get tired. And it's really hard to get yourself ready for that. So, you have to understand that it's not just an act. It's not just an act. You're neglecting your husband. You may be neglecting your husband. So, okay. Okay. All right. Hey, it's great. And those married women parties, man, my husband would be like, well, what'd you learn? Huh? What? What'd you try? Huh? Well, you can come home and try it, and just, he'd be loving those married parties. And it's so fun because we get to learn from each other. And it's not just that, it's concerns. It's like, hey, we've been going through a lot this year. My husband is really down. He's really, really down. What do I do? What do I need to do? And like I said, we can all be that source of comfort. We can all pray for you. We can be there for you. This is what the church is here for. We're supposed to have a unity. We're supposed to be able to encourage each other. We're supposed to be able to pull that husband back, you know? We're supposed to be able to rebuke those demonic spirits from each other. We come together for that. We hear a word, but I mean, we're all, brothers and sisters, we're all a part of this. We are all a part of this. If it's me going through it, it might be you next month. It might be you next month. It might be you 2 years from now. But when I have somebody in there, again, like we talked about in Titus, when you have somebody that has those characteristics, you know, that can help younger women. Okay, I see that. I saw that because I see Betty doing it. I see it because I saw Sheena do it. That's how it works. That's how God can speak to you. We're all the body of Christ. We all have a God in us. So it's not just seeing the God in my spouse, it's seeing the God in the person that's right in front of you, that's sitting there. You know? I can learn something from Karen, maybe about me being a wife. I can learn something. Yeah. You know, I know. I can learn something. I can learn something from you. I don't have to be, just because I'm married, I can't learn something from you. That doesn't mean that. I'm learning something. I can learn something from Davion. It doesn't have to be just because I'm married or because I'm a woman or anything. I can learn something. And we have to be able to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to learn. And you got to have a pure heart. Because if you want to see God, you have to have a pure heart. If I want to see God in this person, I have to make sure I have a pure heart. Okay? You got to take out of your eye. All right? You got to come forth with that. That's when it comes to self-reflection. Even in your singleness, okay, I'm self-reflect. How did I speak to my sister? How did I speak to my kids? We all have a way of learning, and it is presented in the body of Christ. But how do you choose to learn? Do you choose to take a situation and learn from it? Or do you not? You always have a situation to learn. Even at work, you have a situation to learn. It's not just here, but you got to take the God in you, that's in you here at church, also follows you to your work, or it should, okay? So if it does follow you to the work, again, you can apply it there. It can be applied anywhere. I didn't hear that the law of God only works in church. I thought it works out there too. Okay? All right, so it does work out there. So let's apply it to our lives outside of church. Through our coworkers. Through the people that you don't like talking to. I mean, there's plenty of those in my job. But, you know, it's lovely, it's happy. I hope you're having a good day. I'm praying for you. I've had people come into my office who have had cancer, who have cancer, who are asking me to pray for them. So the light that you guys have can shine if you allow it to. But you got to make sure that the God in you, you're allowing to open up and let people see. Don't get weary. Don't get embarrassed of the God in you. Don't get embarrassed to say God. And don't be embarrassed to say Jesus. The blood of Jesus. Don't be afraid. My boss has caught me with my hands folded in front of my computer screen. She's like, "Are you praying?" I said, "You better believe it. Some of these people I have to deal with." Yeah. She's like, "Okay, I can understand that." I'm like, you have to. You have to. So you got to make sure that morning prayer that you're having that same prayer at work. Okay? Because if you get that call from your husband or your spouse or somebody's hurt, I want the blood of Jesus. I want the name of Jesus. I want it now. Wherever I am. I want it right now. I don't want it in 5 minutes. I want it right now. That's what it comes down to. Okay? All right. Ephesians 6, please. verse 11 and 12.
Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Just in case you didn't believe me that you're having to fight demonic spirits, there it is for you, okay? Right there in your face. That's what you are fighting. That's why you address the spirit. You always address the spirit. That's what you're fighting against. That's what it comes down to. You got to make sure you got your full armor of God, because if something, like I said, if something tries to attack your husband, you have to have that shield of faith. You have to have something. You have to have something protecting you, your family. You got to be fully protected. And you have to understand what you're fighting against. So just in case you didn't believe it, here it is for you, okay? All right, last one, Philippians 4. And as you're turning there, I have to tell you, I had the great opportunity of going to UNL. In my decision in going to UNL, I always talk to my husband about it. And I said, we have a child. I'm going to be going to, the circumstances where I'll be going to UNL every day, driving back and forth with my child, with our child. Just a lot of gas. He was the only person working. I would not be able to work. I was very, very hesitant to have this conversation with him. And all he said to me is, if that's what you want to do, I have you 100%. I was floored. Because if you know my husband is, he's money. He's like, okay, well, we got this, we got that, we got this. So we have this amount of disposable income, or we have no disposable income. And so for me, it was just like, well, this is a leap of faith. And I have to believe that he will believe that this is a leap of faith and believe that we can get through this. And so he was like, well, just go ahead on. We'll get you a car. I'll get rid of my bike. And you go to UNL. And, you graduate. The reason why that means so much to me is because when I left high school, I had the opportunity to play basketball at University of South Dakota on a full-ride scholarship. That means everything was paid for besides my books. Everything. That situation turned extremely sour. By the end of my second year there, I was told never to shoot the ball. I wasn't going to amount to anything. So it was basically my childhood all over again. And it was very hard for me because it was just like as much as I try to escape the hurt and the pain, I still keep on hearing this. Is it true? Do I not have anything to offer this world? What is going on? Because it's just like the people that I'm around enjoy having me around. Why does this keep on surrounding me? And so at that time, my husband, or my then fiance, had proposed, and he was like, let's just go to UNL. And I was like, well, do you want me lose my full ride scholarship, get married, and go to UNL and pay for school? He was like, marriage is honorable, right? No, I said, yeah, marriage is honorable. But what that meant is that you have no support from your family. You have absolutely nothing from them, from none of our families. They did not agree with that. You leave a full ride scholarship to get married? Absolutely not. That does not happen. You do a long-distance relationship. You do what you do and then get married after you graduate because you don't want any student loans. Shoot, I was like, I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray about this because something about this just doesn't seem right. I grew up in church, and I know that there are things that you need to abide by. Sometimes it felt like my family thought, okay, there are rules, but, some days it doesn't feel like you have to do it. Some days, that's what I grew up in. Very inconsistent in the word. So I prayed, and God was like, you are a wife. That's exactly what he told me. And from then on, I was like, well, I'm going to get married. And I'm going to go to UNL. And I'm going to pay for school. I'm going to work 2 jobs to support my husband to make sure he gets to do his track and field career. That's the way it works. That is a commitment. That's how you show commitment to God's word. That's what you need to do. I thank God for that situation because it taught us that you can only lean on God. You can only lean on God. The family that I grew up in, I thought they would have me in some support. But I got a letter from my grandma after I had decided to do this that said, you are no longer a part of this family. We want nothing to do with you. It was written out in how many? 4 pages, babe? Yeah, it was like 4 pages long of the explanation as to why I was no longer a part of the family. And surprisingly, guys, it didn't hurt me. Don't get me wrong, the initial attack was just like, wow, how can you go to that level of attack against your granddaughter? Against your granddaughter who loved you throughout all this? I remember sitting in a kitchen with my grandmother, and her goal was to make comments, very mean comments to me, until I actually started crying. I had to sit there and listen to her and try not to cry because that's the only reason she had me in the kitchen, was to make sure. I heard my brothers in the other room actually crying before I even got the chance to do so. And they were screaming to my grandma to stop. Why? That is the type of verbal abuse that I grew up in. Okay? And I tell you that because I look at my situation today and I look at you guys and I think to myself, I want to make sure that you guys know the love that I have for you guys, who you guys are, how you should be encouraged that you're sitting here, how you get to hear an encouraging word. I don't tell you that I say that, yes, because I want you to understand the testimony, but I want you to also understand that you have so much to offer. No one person should be able to bring you down. You have to recognize the God in you. You have to seek the God in you to understand who you are. The only reason why it was affecting me, guys, is because I didn't know who I was. That's the only reason why. If I had sought God and asked him to direct me and tell me who I am to him, it wouldn't have been an issue. But I didn't ask. I didn't ask. God, what do I mean to you? What do I mean to you? Have you asked God that? Have you asked God, what? Because it doesn't matter what anybody says to you. It doesn't matter. You are beautiful. You are handsome. You are loved. You're not unlovable. You are loved. You are loved. God loves you. God wants to see the best in you. There is healing in his word. There is healing there. Ask for healing. Man, ask God to reveal to you how he has been there for you. If you can't see him, ask him to show you how he has been there for you. That revelation is just amazing because he was there for you and he is there for you. You just got to be able to ask it. Don't be scared to ask. You have to know that he is there. You have to know that. We long for that. We long for that in a relationship. We long for our husbands, our wives to be there. But you want God to be there too. You want him to be there. You have to ask for that. You have to ask for that. So this scripture, Philippians 4:6, is the number one scripture that I read to myself when traveling back to UNL, when going to UNL Lincoln, and back every day. Because there was so much uncertainty. Every single semester was challenged, meaning I didn't know if I was going to be able to go to UNL again. Every single semester I was there for 2 years. I didn't know because, daycare, gas is going up, car payment now. The expenses were much more than the income that were coming in. How do we survive? But we're standing here. I'm standing here with a mic. I graduated from UNL. You can do it too. Hey, there is no stopping you. There's no stopping what God has for you. If you say you want to do it, he will get behind you. He will get behind your efforts. You got to make sure you're doing it in God's will. It's his timing that is impeccable. Not your timing. It's his timing. Because I can step into UNL and I'm like, man, I'm 23. All these people are like 21 and 19. Ooh, man, I was like, I am so glad I'm not 19 and 21 because those people were just so immature. It was unbelievable. They were coming for me like, oh my gosh, you have a child? You're married? And you're going to school? It's like, yes. Yeah, you can do that. One guy was just like, well, how do you do that? Because I was thinking about, and proposing to this. I'm like, you just do it. That's all you just do it. If you want to do something, you seek God for it. And if it's his time, it's his timing. So whenever it happens, it happens. But you can do it. You just got to make sure that you have his timing and not your own. And stop comparing. Stop comparing. Women, stop it. Stop it. You are beautiful because of your nose. You are beautiful because of your big eyes. You're beautiful because of your pink lips. You're beautiful because your lips are full. You are beautiful. Stop it. I don't want, that frustrates me as a woman. Beyond, it's just like, but, look at you. You have some beautiful features. You have a beautiful personality. That's what matters. Don't look at me and say, oh, yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But I want to hear you say, but I love my nose. But I love this outfit on me. That's what I want to hear. That is the encouragement that you need to hear yourself say. That's what you need to hear yourself say. So you look in the mirror and you believe it. I don't look in the mirror and say, I'm beautiful. Yeah, you totally convinced it. The mirror's even laughing at you, The mirror fell off the wall. You say it like you mean it. I am beautiful. I am wonderfully made. That's what it is. You got to believe that. And low self-esteem is just it can be so unattractive, ladies. Ooh, it can be. And that really does turn off men. You got to have a high self-esteem. How do you find it? Again, God. He is the number one source. He will turn that low self-esteem into high self-esteem. He will give you the confidence. He will give you that confidence. I don't want to hear you ladies talking or comparing. And I understand that, sometimes, that she looks great. But I need you to say to yourself that you are great. You are beautiful. If you're spitting it out and you're not saying it to yourself, are you really saying it to that person because you think they are? Or is it just something that you say because you just want to hear? You know what I'm saying? That you have to be authentic with it. You got to believe that you're beautiful yourself in order to tell other people that they're beautiful and mean it. Because when you say something and you don't mean it, we can tell. I'm just saying, Facebook. But you got to believe. You got to believe for yourself that you're beautiful in order to give out compliments. You really do. Right, Brandy? Okay. We're working on that with Brandy. But she is beautiful, right? Yeah. Woo-hoo! She is. All right. Philippians 4:6. We'll get there and we'll be done.
Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God.
Man, anxiety. How many of us deal with anxiety? Okay. Oh, man. It is something that can wreak havoc. That is something that you need to nip in the bud immediately. Anxiety turns into doubt quickly with a fierceness. I encourage you to go to this verse and you tell God, hey, be honest. I am anxious about this payment. I don't know. I don't see how it's happening. I can't see it. But I know that you are a provider. You are a provider. You are a comforter. So he will comfort you, and then he will provide you with what you need. We talk about that. We talk about manna. We talk about every day you're given something that you needed. You might not be aware of it and not be what you thought you needed, but you got it. And you got to be thankful. You got to be thankful for what you don't see. That's always what I include in my prayer. I'm thankful for the blessings I didn't see today, God. I am very grateful. I am very grateful that car that tried to, with the drunk driver didn't hit my car on my kid's side. I am grateful that person that might have thought of coming into work and maybe shooting a place up did not. I am grateful that cancer cell didn't multiply. I am thankful. And it shouldn't take something happening in order for you to be thankful for the thing that you don't see. It shouldn't take that. By far, the cancer survivor that I talked to, he's like, it's just so weird because everybody now wants to come out of the woodworks and start praying for me and all this other stuff. He's like, well, where were they before? Doesn't God say that? Where were you before? All of a sudden now something pops up. You want me there. You want me to be right there, fixing it up, getting things done. No, it doesn't happen like that. It's a habit. That's something that you do whether it's happening or it's not happening. You got to thank God now for what he's doing and for what's going to be done. Whether it be tomorrow, whether it be December 31st of 2015, it's going to be done. What he promised you is going to be done in 2015. There is a movement of God happening in Grace Apostolic, the church that you're sitting in right now. The hand of God is here. You have got to be grateful for that. You have got to be grateful for the people that are receiving blessings. You have to be grateful. You have to be grateful. Don't be jealous. Don't be envious. We all serve the same God. He is no respecter of person. Remember that. Remember that. It's not about, oh, this person did that, oh, this person did that, or they went through this and they went through that. No. That's not what it's about. It's a relationship with God. It's you continue to seek him. It's when you open up your faith. It's seeing his face. It's wanting his face. And in that, when you want his face, there's going to be something else trying to come up. You have to be prepared for that, or don't ask for it. But if you're asking for it, you got to be prepared for what's coming forth. Is that understood? All right. Let's go down to the altar here and pray.